Hi, everybody. Welcome to Jumping Instructors Live. We're so excited to see you here today, and we have so much great information to share with you. Today, we have 4 hosts and 1 star that'll be sharing the screen with me. I'd like to introduce you to Laura Kelland-May. If you could raise your hand, Laura. Laura is a senior Canadian hunter, jumper, equitation, hack, judge, and steward. To my right, you can see Jay Duke. Jay Duke is also from Canada. He is a Canadian equestrian course designer, and he's also the owner of Equine Vault, which you'll hear more about. We also have Paddy Downing-Nyegard. If you could raise your hand down there, Paddy.
Hey.
Paddy is a big R judge, USEF, hunters, equitation. Anything else? Can I think of anything else?
Jumpers.
Jumpers, I was forgetting. And our special guest today is Chance. Let's see if we can get it now. Arakelian.
That's good.
Oh, yay! We're so excited to have you here. And now
thank you.
Hand this over to
Thank you, Jay.
Paddy. Paddy, I'm going to let you take it now.
Well, perfect. Hey, Chance. Hi, Jay. Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
Hey, Paddy.
We're privileged to have Chance with us. He is a large R judge with the USEF, does the hunters and the equitation, and he has his hunter breeding license. He's produced some of the top hunters in the equestrian world and has officiated at some of the country's top equestrian events, including the Devon Horse Show. And the topics we're going to discuss, I'm jumping the gun. How about that Chance moved to the East Coast from California just a few years ago, and he's running the Fairfield, am I right? Or the right place?
Oxridge, actually.
Oxridge, sorry. I knew I was going to do it wrong. The Oxridge, I can find it again.
Oxridge.
Riding Racket Club.
Yeah, riding and racket now.
Yeah, riding and racket.
How does that work,
And
Chance? How does the equestrian and racket club work? So is it like a social club, a sports club?
Yes, it's a social club. For years it was just horses. And we wanted to find a way to let some of the parents have, get more out of the membership. So we added a squash center and a paddle tennis center, a full-on gym and a restaurant to the property. So, when people buy a membership, they get more than just the horses, and it's
something for them to do. That's a great way to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
Very innovative. Exactly. So anyway, Chance is a newly moved back east to do this for us. And he and I have judged numerous horse shows together, and we have a good time. And he's a very smart, good horseman and judge. And so we're really glad to have him. And we're going to talk a little bit from the judges box, what it's winning in the hunter divisions. And then identifying talent in young horses and what you need to know and look for. And the big equitation from the judge's perspective. And the fourth one is going to be a few of Chance's favorite training exercises. So we love those things. They're the very best. And if Jay comes back, he'll be all part of that. And Jay being a course designer and a former Canadian
Equestrian.
Well, I was going to say Olympian, but that's not right. Anyhow,
an equestrian team member.
That's it, an equestrian team member. You got it. So, so we're going to start off here, and my dogs will help keep us entertained. And I'm from the northeast of Asheville, North Carolina, up in the mountains. The sun just came out for the first time in 2 days. I'm excited. And the weather's beautiful. So, Laura, are we doing this? Do we have pictures? How are we doing this today?
So today is all about Chance, and Chance is going to give us some insight on what does a winning hunter horse look like in the hunter division. I'd like to know, Chance, how many horses approximately, let's say last season, you saw go throughout the year, let's say. How many horses did you watch go?
How many shows did you judge, Chance?
Oh, you know what? Last year was my first year not judging full time. So I probably judged 5 to 6 horse shows last year, but the 3 years before that, I judged over 40 shows a year.
Wow.
So I got a lot of experience doing that, saw a lot of things, learned a lot of things. It's so great sitting there all day long, watching all the different trainers and how their system works and how they do it and what kind of horse they buy for each particular person they're training, watching the schooling area. There's a lot you can get out of that. And, I saw a lot of different horses go, a lot of different divisions. A lot of it's just, what kind of a horse you need for what division you're competing in is a lot of it. And a lot of it's really watch the divisions and watch, what kind of a horse it takes to win. Sometimes you don't need the fanciest horse to win a particular division. Sometimes you need a horse that, is easier to find the jumps on, gets its lead, it's just more of a steady eddy. So, I got a lot out of just sitting and watching for 3 or 4 years rather than running from ring to ring, trying to get everybody ready and in the ring,
And I think that's great. Somebody asked me years ago when I was in the business, they said, well, that horse that we're looking at, it jumps great and it's easy to ride and it's fun, but it doesn't move so well. And I said, well, but there are 4 to 5 jumping classes in each division. Right. So the good jumpers are more important than the good movers. If you can only do one. It's hard to find them all. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sometimes I tell, like if I have an amateur or a junior rider that's really accurate, then maybe I'll go for a horse that jumps really well and maybe isn't as good of a mover. And if it's somebody that's maybe a little less accurate, then I'll focus a little more on the movement, just because I know we've got to get a hack ribbon to have a shot at being champion reserve, So you kind of try and use some of the strategy, but it's finding the right horse is always hard. It's getting harder.
It is harder.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So I was going to ask you, what is winning in the hunter division this year, last year? Yeah. I don't know what's winning in the hunter division this year, and has it changed a lot over the past, say, 10 years, 15 years?
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot. The training's gotten better and better. The horses have gotten, so much better. It takes, there's a lot of hunters now that, have beautiful movement, beautiful canter, beautiful balance, have an unbelievable jump, jump great off both leads, aren't that hard. There's probably 5 or 6 horses in the country that are like that right now, that are at that level. And there's not a lot of them, but there are some that are like, can score in the high 90s if they're good.
And that's fun to judge, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
That's a blast.
That's why we do it, right?
So, Chance, have you ever given 100%?
I haven't yet. I've given a 96. I think that was the highest I ever gave. Looking back, maybe there was a few rounds I could have, but it takes a lot of, you really have to be confident in the round to throw a score like that. Usually when you see a score like that, it's usually, an older judge that's been there, done that, and seen everything, and they're like, it's not going to get any better than this. Let's give it 100.
Exactly. I haven't done 100. I did a 98 one time.
Now, Paddy, what was wrong with that horse that you took off 2 marks?
Well, the exact same thing, that one might have come in after it and had a better score, and so that it jumped higher or rounder or better, and so. We discussed it. We discussed throwing that 100. It was a derby, and we discussed throwing it, and we decided that we wanted to have room just in case. Yeah. It's hard to throw. I guess you could throw 101, but
I was going to say, couldn't you give the other horse 101 or 102 or something?
Yeah, but now you're starting a whole new precedence, and yeah. I don't necessarily want to be the one that starts the new precedent.
Exactly.
They won. The 98 won.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other team gave it a 96, so they thought we were brazen.
Yeah.
I'd like to follow up with Chance on the suitability comment to get some more clarification for our listeners on that. How much does that apply to the overall score? So again, we're talking about scoring out of 100, and I understand suitability is different per division. Of course, the adult amateur division is going to be different than in the regular hunter division, suitability wise. But if you can get into a little bit of detail on how much does that go into the scoring, like, is there an actual number that you score suitability out of, or what is that process?
Yeah. To me, when you're judging horse, like when you're judging the amateurs and the juniors, I'm a little more, I ease off a little more on suitability. There can be a smaller kid showing a bigger horse or vice versa. To me, that's a little more okay. I'm a little harder about it in the equitation, just because, you're really judging the picture and the style, and the suitability to me there is a bigger part of it. In the ponies, I probably do it the most because, there might be a 14-year-old kid in the, in the mediums that's doing, high junior jumpers, and they're showing a pony, and like if a 10 or 11-year-old goes in and has the same round, maybe you'll use suitability as a tiebreaker. But it's definitely factored in. You're not going to put a bad round or somebody that misses in front of a 14-year-old kid that lays down a good trip. I mean, it's all relative, but it is a tiebreaker for sure. And in the equitation, I would say it's a tiebreaker as well. You're going to slot the kid wherever you think it should slot on your card. But if there's something kind of close and you have to make a close call, then you're going to take that into consideration. And I mean, that's how I do it anyway.
And is there?
Yes, that would be how I do it also.
Is there some sort of, when you're taking the clinics and the coaching clinics and learning to be judge, I apologize, to be a judge, is there some sort of standardized form across the board with that, or is that more left up to how you individually feel? How is that taught by the federation?
That's one topic that I think could be addressed better. I think that there's certain things that there are standards for. A horse adds a stride in a line, it's a 65. A horse leaves a stride out in a line, it's a 50. Horse breaks to the trot, 55. For me, if a horse hangs a leg, I start at a 68. So there is a standard for certain things. And then, once the horses have, gotten past all those things, and now let's say they're in the 70s, then I think it becomes pretty open-ended as to what each judge wants to do with certain things. I mean, there's certain judges that, they want all the distances found first, and then they separate the horses by quality after they find all the jumps. This is in the hunters. And then there's certain judges that don't mind if somebody is, a little deep or a little long, if the quality of the horse really outweighs the other horses and the horse jumps very good out of those distances. There's some judges that'll go with quality over, say, a super accurate round. I see it go both ways all the time, and I hear different people have different opinions. And that's one great thing about judging with so many different people every week is, you get to absorb the way each person does it and then do it the way you want to do it. But that's kind of what I've seen, And there's some judges, sometimes some of the more old-fashioned judges, they put a huge emphasis on type, a lighter type and a really good balance and a really good movement. And they're a little more lax on the jump. And I'd say in this day and age, I think the current trend is putting more focus on the jump, and not being as hard on type and movement. That's just the trend that I think is going on now. But, the right way to do it is to find some sort of a balance between the two, I think,
Yeah, I
like that last statement about the balance between the two, because it depends on where you judge. Chance, you've been lucky. You judge a lot of great big horse shows. Laura and I, we judge a lot of horse shows of lower quality, and sometimes that safety thing is so important. But it's very different than going and judging somewhere where you have greens and juniors and amateurs. all of that.
I like what you say when you say if you add in a stride, it's a 65, but if you leave out a stride, you're going to get dinged a lot more for that. That's where that safety thing comes in. You don't want to see them leaving out a stride.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So for us in Canada, one of the things that they talk about is they say that the nicest jumper should really win the class. But again, it's the performance, right? If your nice horse knocks down a rail or chips or adds in, then it's not going to win.
Correct. And
exactly. Well, the way I do it is they have to find the jumps somewhat equally, and then they have to do the steps and the lead changes, and then they jump well, or they don't jump well, or they move well, or they don't move well. To me, the movement becomes a tiebreaker, because sometimes there's some jumpers out there that jump a 15 and move a 5, and the jump does outweigh the movement, in my opinion. We all want the perfect horse. We want the one that moves a 10, jumps a 10, is ridden a 12, and I mean, that's the most fun to judge. And they are out there. There are some of those riders out there that they walk in the ring and you smile, you just know it's going to be a good round.
Yeah.
And we want it to be a good round.
And
it's much easier to judge a good round.
And that's really, in my opinion, the key to judging. It's like how many airs can the top quality horse in the class, the one that's got the class, the stride, the type, the jump, how many airs can that horse make before a lesser quality horse with a perfect trip moves ahead of it? And I don't think there's any set system for me, I go off feel every time. And I don't really think there's a set system for sin, because, there's just so many factors in what you're seeing and judging. Stride length, do they jump the same off both leads? Are they jumping high? What kind of balance they land in? Are they slow through the air, quick through the air? Are they reaching their arc past where they should be? Are they laying on their side? Are they, there's so much to it that it's hard to have like a standard when you get past like the 76 and up type number, in my opinion.
I think it's a good opinion. You're fun to judge with because you're a good horseman. And I think that the trick is that you have to be a good horseman, and you have to kind of know where you are. Like I've judged a number of the Arabian finals, and someone said, well, they just aren't great jumpers. Well, that's wrong. There are some really good jumpers in the hunters. And it's fun to judge, but kind of when in Rome. So when you judge the walk trot ring at Foxley Farm in Florida in the summertime, and they're all dressed up in costumes, it's a little different than judging the Derby in Tryon. I mean, you have to kind of look in your ring and decide what's the most important thing.
Right. Okay, so Chance, we do have some of the exercises that you sent to us. Let's go over one of those exercises here. Just give me a second here while I cue it up.
Okay.
It's the first exercise, I think. I got queued up here. The gymnastic exercise.
Yes.
There. Can you explain that? And
that exercise is just a very simple, trot in. Let's hope I did this right. Trot in 18 feet, cross rail to a vertical. And then I do 21 feet, which is still a little short, to an oxer. And then short 2 strides to a little bounce. And, I do all sorts of different things with it. It's just, to me, I like to always put placement rails in the middle of the in and outs, because it's really important to me for the horses to learn where to put their feet. Even if it's an older horse that's super experienced, I just think that gives them a lot of confidence. Like if a rider's missing on them, or they're getting deep, or they're getting long, I think that's a really good way to just repair.
So these guys, the ground poles.
Yes, it really places the horse where they're supposed to be in the middle of the in and out. And then you can do things, like the oxer, you can make Swedish if they keep landing on, right lead. I might go high side right with a Swedish there to try and get them to land left. To the bounce, I'm going to drop the reins and let the bounce back the horse up. I'm not going to help them there. Sometimes I'll put a guide rail somewhere if they're jumping one direction. And then, you kind of go up on it, to sort of just, the biggest thing is to trot in and drop the reins and let them figure out where their balance is and where their feet are, and not try to help them. Maybe the first time through, you'll, follow the jaw a little bit through it just to make sure they know where to put their feet. And then once they know, then it's better to just drop them and let them figure it out. That's, I do that exercise a lot of the times with the young horses. I even do it with the older horses, just to sort of like, put them back together again. Like if they've been missed on a lot. The other thing I do, like if somebody gets a horse backed off or, not wanting to go, sometimes I put them in the round pin, and I'll just throw some big cross rails on the circle, and I'll just make them canter in a circle over jumps and with no set distances, and just make them chip in, leave long, chip in, leave long, get there just right, and make them jump off their bad lead. And I find that doing that and then putting the person back on really builds their confidence too. So a lot of those kinds of little exercises.
So we do have a comment here from Jackie Ketterman McClintock. Thank you very much, Jackie, for putting a comment there. How do you judge pace? It seems like lately horses are just creeping around the ring. They're going so slow, it's painful to watch. What are your feelings about that?
I think pace is determined by the length of your horse's stride. What I tell riders is when you're doing a hunter course, the idea that's to be in the same pace and the same rhythm from the start to the finish of the round. So however the lines are going to ride, however the lines are going to ride for that horse, whatever speed you have to travel to get up the lines is the speed you should be at going to the first jump, because you want it all to match. So a horse with a 14-foot stride is obviously going to go slower than a horse with an 11-foot stride. And to me, that's what sort of dictates pace. Sometimes if I have a really good jumping horse that has a really big stride and it needs to go slow, it'll worry me that even if it jumps great, the judges might not use it very far up because of the pace it takes. So to me, those kinds of horses, you have to train them to sort of gallop and back up to the jumps so that you can flow more and let them just back up off the jump so that they're not crawling around the course like she's saying. So I agree with that a little bit.
There's a chance that was perfect though, because sometimes you have to train the horses to lengthen and shorten and create the energy underneath it so that you can shorten that step up a little bit and still have the horse going.
Yes.
And I think that's
a lot of people with big strided horses, you can teach a horse with a 13 or 14 foot stride how to gallop still. You still have to teach them how to go forward, even if they have that kind of stride, and they just have to be that much more broke,
Exactly. More adjustable.
Yeah.
Exactly. And with that being said, guys, I love you all, but I am out of here. I'm going to go see my nephew, and then I'm going to drive to Tryon and judge this weekend.
Bye, Pat. Nice seeing you, Paddy.
Bye, guys. Good to see you. Good to see you, Jay. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Laura.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Paddy.
Chance, I'd like to follow up on that comment that viewer sent in. The horses are becoming better and better movers over time.
Mm-hmm.
They're becoming more athletic. They're covering more ground. Guillermo Jorge talked about that when he was on the show. So I think you are going to see, some of the lines now in those, say the 4-foot hunters, they set them, 6-7 feet over standard, and the horses are still walking down the lines.
Walking lines.
And so what do you think about how would you feel as a judge if the hunters went to less related lines and more single jumps? I'm not saying no lines at all, but I mean, if you went to more single jumps, would that be a better, more fair test to judge all of the horses in the class, or not? Am I off there?
Well, totally. When there's not related distances, the horses with shorter strides pick up a huge advantage because a horse that is a mediocre jumper that has to gallop up the lines, the odds of losing its jump increase greatly. So if I'm on a horse with a little slower stride, I could create a much better jump if I don't have to be on the pace to get the counts in the lines. So yeah, I think it greatly makes the class more fair for everybody. In that case, if it's like that. But I think big strided horses. The thing about big strided horses, they're almost harder to ride because, like to ride a horse that has a really, really big stride and to have to go slow, but still keep them super engaged. And, a lot of people, when they go slow, the horses get dead to their leg and then they can't, so teaching people how to keep a horse really under them and taking their hand on a big stride, but going slow, that's something you have to teach, That's not an easy ride either, especially when they're long in the back,
Yeah, absolutely. No. And you wouldn't want it to necessarily favor the shorter movers, but I'm thinking, obviously your typical hunter class has 2 single jumps and then 3 related lines. Yeah. And so, so right there, 80% of your, 75% of your course is based on the related distances. I'm thinking more if it was a bit more, say 50-50. Yeah. I think you should have a test of stride for sure in the course, probably off of both leads. Yeah. But maybe if it was more 50-50, I think that would make for a better balance to the class. That's what I observed.
I agree. And I think that, the hard thing, like if a horse is a little bit short strided, most people always think they want to get to the oxer just right and create this great jump at the oxer. And a lot of times what you'll see is they sacrifice the jump in a little bit, because they want to get there. They want to land into the line to get to the oxer just right. And, you won't get the best jump at the vertical, and I try and teach in my lessons, the vertical is just as important as the oxer out, So, you've got to be a way more accurate rider to create 2 equal jumps in a hunter line on a horse that doesn't have as much stride. And the most fun thing to watch is, I don't know if you guys ever watch it, but sometimes at Devon, especially when Phil DeVita does the courses, he'll really open the lines out because it's a premier horse show and he wants to make it a little more challenging. And you'd be amazed when the lines move out a little bit, how much it gets everybody, because they know exactly how to create the jump out of their horse within a certain comfort zone. And when you take them out of that comfort zone and you make them travel the base rhythm is maybe 2 miles over where they're comfortable at, everything can change. And it's you'll see people circling and jumping into the lines and turning out, and some of the best riders. I mean, so it's amazing those little nuances, how much they play into it,
Okay, so before we get into the next topic here, there is a question by Catherine Nolan. I may have missed it. I just joined, but what's the distance from the first ground pole to the cross rail on this exercise?
I eye it out all the time. Some horses, I just look at the horse's step. It's at least 6 or 7 feet, and then I'll move it out to maybe 9 feet on a big horse. But I like the last 2 steps to be backing up short. Like I want them to almost kind of have to chip in and squat onto their hind end. I never want to encourage them to get onto their front or lengthen the last stride, So like when I'm schooling the horses, like when they're galloping in the show ring and their nose is out and they're, every time you're not in the show ring, you've got to be resetting them, reloading their balance, reloading their canter so that they're, getting to the jumps, light on the front end, and with their haunch under them. So, it's a balance. The more you do of one thing, like the hunter riding, the more you have to then go back and readjust back to the correct, back to where they're supposed to be, so that you can get the same jump out of them time and time again. Yeah.
Okay, so we do have another question here from Kess Stevens. Thank you very much, Kess, for putting in a comment. What are your thoughts on talk that judges are biased to particular colors of horses, like paints? Is there a preference?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I mean, if you're judging what you're supposed to be judging, which is the type, the balance, the movement, the jump, the quality and the softness of the round, the horse's color really shouldn't, have a lot to do with it. I mean, sometimes certain colored horses have certain things. Certain colored horses sometimes have certain errors that they'll make, I guess is a good way to put it. So sometimes I'm looking out for a specific thing on a certain colored horse. But if the horse goes well, I'm certainly not biased,
Yeah. I agree with you. And when you're walking around the show ring and you hear people say, oh, well, the judge doesn't like my horse, that's why I didn't win. And I'm thinking, no, you didn't place because you probably added in or didn't get a lead or chipped in or got too close, or your horse jumps with its legs hanging. So let's go on to the next topic here. So we have a big topic here, is identifying talent in young horses. Is this something that you do a lot? Do you go to sales or pick up young horses that is there something particular that you like to see when you're looking at horses for clients?
Yeah, I buy a lot of young horses to bring along, and there's so much to look at, starting with conformation. The conformation of the horse is very important because it tells you what kind of balance the horse is going to have. It's very good for telling you how sound the horse is going to stay over time based on, its feet. Is he toed in? Is he toed out? Splints, the angles in their legs. There's a lot you can see. You can really see into the future when you look at the conformation.
So you're thinking of soundness wise. First of all, is that one of your first prerequisites?
Soundness wise and performance. Soundness always relates to performance. Then you want to make sure the horse is sound, obviously. I'd like to trot them on hard ground both directions, trot them on soft ground both directions, then get on them, see what they feel like on saddle. Movement is extremely important, the trot and the canter. Their balance is important. Are they upside down? Are they down on their front? Because the more balanced they are, the less harder you're gonna have to be training them. And you don't want to get you don't want a horse that has mediocre conformation and doesn't have a natural balance. Now you're going to be training
way behind it. Yeah. What do you mean by upside down?
Head straight up in the air.
Yeah. So like a hollow through the back.
Yeah, they don't use their back as much, and a horse that canters to the jump with a high head, you'll find the riders always get like 2 or 3 inches past where they think they are, and they'll always be deep on a horse like that. Right. So, but mostly with young horses, it's length of stride. How much blood do they have? Is it a hot horse? Is it a quiet horse? Because that dictates how much prep it's going to need, which dictates, how sound it's going to stay. The jump, evaluating each side of the horse, right versus left.
I picture in my mind, Chance, when you go out to look at horses, that you've got this giant clipboard and you're going, okay. But this is something.
It happens in 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. They bring a horse out and you kind of know as soon as the horse goes by whether it meets your criteria. Is that?
Yes, that's exactly right. The feet are super important. You don't want club feet. You don't want horses with low heels. And the x-rays really determine the value of a horse. I mean, you have to really x-ray a horse and know where stuff is to really be able to understand what the value of that horse, but the potential can be. And that dictates whether it's a horse that can be resold, if it's a horse that's going to be a lease horse. All of that stuff is part of it. And then the hardest thing to judge when you're doing young horses, and maybe you've got 15 or 20 minutes to look at one, is character.
Right.
You don't want to rear up by the out gate or spook at everything outside the ring or peek at the jumps or spin at when another horse comes at it in the school. I mean, that's the part that's harder to judge.
Yeah. Is there something that you may live with that is something that is not good that you could live with?
Totally. I mean, I can live with a splint. I can live with a horse being a hair toed in. Toed in is better than toed out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I can live with the horse that's maybe a little longer in the back than it should be. I could live with a lot of different things if the horse is talented, but it's weighing everything together. And then, it's such a feel thing, because it's weighing everything together, and it's the experience of doing it so much over the years, and, having successes and failures, and then starting to formulate, ideas and systems to it,
Is there a hard no for you? No.
I find horses with wide above the knees are usually a little.
Could you say that again?
I'm careful with horses that have wide above the knee. Usually
white, like stockings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually, to me, those horses are usually sometimes not all there and a little bit harder to train, and maybe a little more blood, spookier. I'm careful with that.
Especially if they're chestnuts, right?
Yeah. I'm very, very careful with all black horses with no white whatsoever.
Really? You mean like the RCMP horses?
Yeah. The RC, which ones?
Canadian.
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police horses.
Oh, yeah.
So Jackie Ketterman McClintock, thank you again, Jackie, for sending in this. She asked, what about scars?
You have to take that into account a little bit when you're judging a conformation class. I'm not that hard on scars. I mean, it depends on, how big it is and long it is, but I'm a little easier on that.
What about the cryo scars for curbs or?
That I'm a little harder on. That I'm harder on. That's different.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now let's go again to you sent us 3 exercises, so let's go to the next exercise here. Here's the first one here that we looked at, and the next one is this pole exercise, and I'm looking at it, but I forgot to share it. There we go. I do that a lot.
You share it with everybody, Laura.
Yeah, it's so nice. But so this exercise, you had some lines on it, the pattern that you did, and I thought I'd just draw it here while you explained it. So how do you do this exercise?
Well, I do it a million different ways. First off, I'm a big believer in, more times than not when I'm doing a lesson, we're doing flat work, we're doing no stirrups, we're doing pull exercises, cavalettis. We probably do an actual course, like you jump in the ring, probably once every 10 days. Like, I don't do a lot of coursework when we're home, maybe a little more coursework when we're getting ready to go to a show, but I can pretty much simulate every single thing that's going to happen in a round by doing, and I love continuing exercises where you put people in a pattern and then you just talk and teach as they're doing it. So it's like, you don't talk and then let them jump 6 rails and then talk again. I like to teach while they're doing it. So, I might do like a, you do the line and then you roll back.
Which rein?
You do the 2 jumps in a straight line, and then you go all the way down and you loop back to this pull at the end of the ring. Yeah. and then you come back to the line the other way. Yeah. And then you're going to go all the way to the end of the ring. You're going to roll back, down and roll back, and then come back to the line again. And, you can put somebody in a pattern like that, and you can simulate everything, left to right to left, both lead changes, a line, getting straight. I might have them do different numbers in the line, add one, leave one out. You can teach them the bend around, how to bend the horse around, how to make a horse turn correctly and then lock onto a straight line. You can take the rail over on the other side and just teach someone how to ride off a long approach. You can teach people different corners. You can teach people how to turn a corner, lock in their track, and then measure the distance. And then you can teach people on a rollback, how to make their track dependent upon the distance they see. So they turn to a distance rather than lock in the track and then measure the takeoff point. So, you can just do all sorts of different things with exercises like this. And I come up with all kinds of, new ways to do it all the time. If you have a horse that likes to land on the left lead, I might make it go right and just do a circle over the rails, just doing easy, steady distances, landing right. And I always like, whenever I'm doing like conservative sort of distances where the last couple strides are compressing, I like them to come forward off the previous rail and then compress and then land and then stay on the lead and then go forward and then compress, and just lots of accordion type opening, closing, landing the lead they don't favor, things like that,
So whatever you feel like doing, really, you can do with this exercise. You can. Yeah. I like it because I was trying to the pattern that you sent. It was like, okay, now where does he want me to go now?
I know
because it was tough to see, but yeah. So I guess the idea is that rather than getting them to do the 6 jumps or 6 pulls on the ground, you get the pattern going, and then you can teach while you're going through that.
Yeah, you get the pattern going, and sometimes I'll make them do this without stirrups, and you'll be amazed if you focus on this stuff for like a week and do it every way from Sunday with stirrups, without stirrups. Sometimes I make them do it with just with one hand on the rein. Sometimes I'll make them do it with a bridged rein, so they learn how to follow the jaw with their hands working together and not not this like everybody does. And I'll just like bridge the reins and make them go up and down with their hands and side to side, and teach them how to just steer with their legs and let the hands just do the finishing touches and, things like that. And, you spend a week doing stuff like that, and then you go jump a course and you'll be amazed what stuff like that does,
And I also like it because especially the exercises you've shown is they create thinking riders. That was one of the points you had brought up earlier, is that it's important to have thinking riders instead of just the robots.
Exactly.
Because you see the difference in the judges' ring, right?
Yeah. That's the thing, is getting riders that like can, adapt with something in real time. A horse, canters down to the first jump and rolls over its shoulder a little bit. The kid feels it and they leave it more room into the next line. They don't have to like jump the course like that, come out of the ring. We tell them leave it more room, and then they go. You got to teach them to.
You've given them the base of how to do that.
Yeah, feel and react.
Excellent. So, so some of the horse shows that you do judge are the big equitation classes, like 3.6 to 3.6, 3.9, 4 feet.
That's correct.
Yeah. So how are those different than the regular jump equitation classes that the regular hunter ec?
Yeah, there's the Metal McClay.
Yep.
That's 3.6. You got the Washington jumper phase where you have to be, under a time allowed and rails count, and then the USET has different levels to it. The highest one having an open water.
Wow.
So like with the equitation, it's just it's just kind of each person has a different taste in what they want. You know, I always say the hunters is a combination of having a good round divided by quality of horse, and the equitation is the round divided by the style of the rider, right? So it's like, you know, it's kind of the same thing. It's just, you know, it's the rider instead of the horse. And you know, everyone has different things. Some people are just all about distances and numbers. Some people are about style, and you know, maybe they don't care if someone gets a little past it, or it's the way they handle each situation. And for me, it's a lot about the way kids can make a horse jump. It's not just about distances and numbers and who can do the inside track and leave it out, and who could. To me, you know, good riding is feel. Like, what feel does it take to create the best jump out of the horse? Is it leg to hand off the ground? Is it leg and soften your hand off the ground? Is it a gap? Is it getting to the base? You know, to me, good riding is watching kids adapt and understanding their horse and then giving it that ride, you know, not getting too robotic.
Yeah. So do you find that's even at the higher levels, they are getting kind of robotic?
A little bit. I mean, it's still good riding, but it's like
and
you know,
harder riding at that level. So it's hard to be a robot at that level.
True.
Yeah. And like, you know, in the equitation, you know, you can see a kid have a beautiful position, lay down a beautiful trip. I mean, it's a high score. Like it's you know, it's for equitation, it's exactly what you want to see. But then I want to be able to see that same kid get on a really fancy hunter and make it jump great, or get on a high junior jumper and like make it jump out of its skin. You know, the equitation then needs to relate to the hunters and the jumpers at the end of the day, mostly jumpers. But so it's just finding kids that connect over and don't just do the equitation as an end all be all. So that's kind of how I see it.
What are some of the big shows that you're doing this next year? What are you judging this year? I know you're.
You know, I did a lot of big shows the last few years. Like I judged Harrisburg, I judged Washington, I judged the USEF finals also at Harrisburg. I judged the McClay finals in Kentucky. I judged Derby finals. I judged Devon. I judged a lot of big shows, and then I brought it down. And last year, what did I judge last year? I can't even remember now. I judged like 3 or 4 shows last year. This year, I only took 2 horse shows. I'm doing Derby finals and incentive finals at Kentucky, and then I'm doing the 3-3 McClay at the National Horse Show, because I did the 3-6-1 year before last. So I just took 2 shows this year because I'm pretty busy with my situation here at Oxridge now.
Yeah. So can you tell us how many students and horses there are at Oxridge?
Yes. We have a 60 stall barn. So we're full right now. So we've got 60 horses in training. 5 of those are school horses. We have a small sort of lesson program that gets people started from scratch. We have some kids that go like to the one-day shows. Then a lot of the horses go to the big shows. So we have kind of a big combination of people. It's a club, so you know, people have to buy a membership and pay monthly dues, and you know, it's a little different than just being in a regular barn. Oxridge has been here for years and years and years. It has a ton of history. It went through a little bit of a down spell for a while. The place got a little bit kind of old and just kind of non-usable. It got a little run down. So 2 years ago, we sold half of the property back to the city of Darien. And then we used those proceeds to remodel and put in a new indoor and a new clubhouse and redo the barn and put in new rings and redo all the footing. So the place
you're growing.
Yeah, the place is really put back together now, and the location's always been great. And now that the place is usable again, people are coming back to it. So, we're excited about the momentum, and we're just trying to keep it going, especially through all this, recent times.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So I do have a question from Jay. He's been is on Facebook here. Unfortunately, his internet isn't good enough for, I guess, for the broadcasting type thing.
Okay.
And he was putting together proposing a class, and I'd like to get your input and feelings on this, Chance. A class division that is judged 50% equitation and 50% hunter. What are your feelings on that? So it's 50% equitation and 50% on the horse. What do you think about that?
I think that's a very good idea. The first thing that comes to mind when you say something like that is the professional challenge at Capital Challenge, the World Hunter Rider Professional Challenge, because a lot of times the top hunter riders don't use like the top hunters. Sometimes they'll use an equitation horse, or sometimes they'll use, a horse that's just sort of an average hunter. Because it's judged a little bit on the horse and a lot on how the person rides the horse. So that's a class that I would say is kind of similar to what Jay's suggesting. And that's a very successful class. It's a class they've done every year for years. But I think that, people love different classes at horse shows every once. So I'm not saying it works every week, but like,
Yep.
When they do like an equitation derby and they let all the juniors, amateurs, and trainers do it,
Right.
or they make teams like one trainer, one amateur, and they combine the scores together and they do special classes like that. To me, it's always a hit to do something different. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's I think that would be a great class. Thanks, Jay. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right. See, we got the comments here. Okay. So here we go from Andrea Hollinger. Thank you very much, Andrea. Let's see. I'm really enjoying listening to Chase. My instructors are doing all the training exercises you have been talking about with me and my horse. I am 64. Yay.
Yeah, that's
yay,
great.
Yay. And
Keep
hoping
going.
And hoping too I can enjoy the success of getting that feel before I run out of time. All the best, Andrea. Yeah, that's awesome.
You
Like to
gotta
hear that.
just keep doing it. Repetition. You can hear it all you want from the trainers, but nothing makes up for just, doing it and doing it. Just developing the instincts,
So we have another exercise that you sent in here, Chase. Let me just get it queued up here. There it is. And how does this one work?
It's just another one of those exercises. You can do so many things with it. You can jump, bending lines.
Are these oxers here, or?
Yeah, oxers on the outside, exercise in the inside. You can do you can do straight lines, oxer to oxer. You can do bending, like usually there's more space, like so like not that, because that's empty in the middle. It's just a circle in the middle. No jumps there. But you can do like the oxer to like one of the vertical straight bend, like that, or any direction you want. It's very important for people to learn how to do flying changes in a bending line. That's one thing that people really have to know how to do properly, so that when they can do a flying change in a bending line or a straight line without losing the track they're on, because they know how to connect their leg to their hand correctly. So these exercises sort of work on that. They sort of work on getting the horse to kind of look for the next jump and where it's going. And these are the kinds of exercises where you can really work on position. When I'm working on position, again, I like to do continuing exercises and just put people in a little pattern, and then just, sort of talk to them while they're doing it. Sometimes if somebody's not getting a certain part with their position, I'll change the exercise and make the exercise force the positional change I'm looking for. Because, if you have someone that's leaning out in front of a jump and you're telling them, but they're not doing it, if you put a jump 3 strides on the landing and make them turn inside of it, they're going to hold their body. Sometimes you have to make the exercise fix the problem, so everybody's different. Everyone needs a different approach. You're trying to get to the same place, but sometimes you got to take a different approach with each person. And so much of it is mental and in their head, and so much of it is having a positive attitude and a positive outlook on it. And you can get them the right horse, you can teach them lessons till they're blue in the face, but getting them to where they can travel to a horse show, warm up in a ring they've never been in before, walk in and do what they do at home is very, very much, when you're finished with all the training, then you have to go after them mentally so that they learn how to take the hours and hours of training and put it into a two-minute performance. And that's another science,
Yeah, that's a whole other broadcast that we can get you in for, Chance.
Yeah, that's hard for a lot of people,
Yeah, the psychological part of it, the mental and
sports
imagery and focusing and all that type of thing. Well, believe it or not, we've got 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do have a question from Jesse, but we don't have time for that one. So Randi, I think I'd like to hand it back over to you and you can wrap things up here. Thank you so much, Chance. Really appreciate you coming today. It was nice chatting with you.
Yeah,
right. And I want, yes. And I agree with you completely, Chance, with the patterns. One of the biggest changes that I did in my riding career was learn how to start using patterns on the flat and over fences. It changes everything.
Everything.
So I love hearing that because, most people just want to go out there and jump courses.
Yeah. A lot of people don't understand lateral. Like they don't know how
right.
to get off their sides before they make turns. So like with the patterns, you can really teach people how to move a horse from inside to outside. Like if you're going to turn left, move the horse from the left leg to the right opening before they make the turn and then change it over on the next. That's a very important part of turning,
Yeah.
And a lot of times you teach people to do it, they understand it, but the horse won't move off their leg.
That's right.
So it's getting the horse to actually do it. And then, it's just all a process, but all that stuff's good stuff.
Well, you've shared some great advice and knowledge with us today. Thank you so much, Chance.
Super. Thank you for having me.
All right. We'd like to talk about we have 2 other shows that we present during the week. We have on Mondays, you can join us for the Jay Duke Show. Who's his guest for this Monday, Laura? Who does he have for?
It's the 2 women.
Oh, the 2 ladies. He's not here to tell us. So we've got 2 great ladies that'll be joining us on Monday. And the next Monday, he's got, who's joining him then? I know we're sitting here guessing because Jay's not here right now. McLean Ward will be here for next week. And then on Wednesdays, we have the Riding Position Fix-It show with Laura. Laura, would you like to talk about what you're doing with that?
Oh, yeah, sure. So this coming Wednesday, we have Robert Robold, who's a USEF, our judge. We've got some topics that I know that's going to be interest you. We also have Amy Owen Center coming on June 10th. And not sure if you know who Linda Allen is, but Linda Allen is coming June 17th. She's the author of 101 riding exercises that you may have seen in the bookstore. So she's coming June 17th. So make sure you mark your calendars for that.
Definitely.
And then meanwhile, back here at the Jumping Instructors Live show, we're continuing to grow like everybody, I guess. But next week we have, oh boy, now I can't even remember what we're doing. Who do we have next week? We have, oh no! Oh, right, Nona Garson. How can I forget Nona? I know Nona's coming. The week after that, we have Darla you probably don't know Darla from the Certified Horsemanship Association. We're going to go over all the bookkeeping, all the records, everything that as a professional instructor you need to be able to keep track of. And then, of course, we have more guests coming in all the time. We look forward to sharing our amazing people like Chance with all of you, so you have a chance to get to meet them personally and learn from all the knowledge that they've learned over all these years that they're sharing with us. This is such an amazing experience for all of us. Thank you so much.
It's amazing. All the people that we've had on the programs, you know, it's very inspirational to understand and learn what they're doing. Sometimes it's exactly the same thing that you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, you know.
Do you have any final words? Do you have any final words you'd like to say today, Chance?
You know, I thank you guys. I think this is a great show. I think that, you know, being able to use the internet now to educate people and to, you know, give people your way of doing things. They can take pieces of it if they want. They might not agree on any of it, but I think getting the dialogue going and getting people listening to other people and discussing it, it's only going to make us better horsemen. And it's great. I mean, I think it's a great thing, and I appreciate you guys doing it.
No, we appreciate everything you do. All right, everybody. Well, you have a great day. I'll see you on the other side.
Okay. All right. Bye, guys. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, everybody's gone. That was good. He's knowledgeable, isn't he?